Hello everyone, Namaste, welcome back to my channel. This is Amisha Singh Chauhan, and if you're looking for something fun, dark and mysterious, then you're at the right place. So do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. Now, before I start off with Ed Gein's case, I would like to give out a small disclaimer that this case could be triggering. It has a lot of graphical content, a lot of graphical details. So, today we're going to talk about the inspiration behind these amazing classic thriller movies like Psycho, Silence of the Lambs, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So like when you watch these movies, you get these disclaimers which says based on true events. And very rarely do we think while watching the movies that, oh, this couldn't have happened in real life. Like, come on, this is fictional. But let me tell you about the inspiration, and they indeed was based on true events. I am talking about Edward Theodore Gein. He was born on 27th of August 1906 to George and Augusta Gein. Let's talk about the parents for a second. George and Augusta, they had a not weird, but a very crazy, violent, toxic marriage relationship. Augusta was a very dominating person. She was very religious, whereas George, on the other hand, he was a hardworking person, but he couldn't stick to one job because of his love for alcohol. He was an alcoholic, and Augusta hated her husband for that. Now, when Edward turned 8, Augusta decided that they had to leave the populated town and shift to somewhere where they could get solidarity and, distance from people who were very sinful. So they shifted to Plainfield, Wisconsin, and they took a land which was almost like 200 acres, and over here the family dynamics, it completely got worse. So Edward had an older brother. His name was Henry. Now, Edward and Henry, though they could go to school, they weren't allowed to be like normal students. They couldn't interact with their classmates or make friends. And if they even tried to do so, Augusta would literally punish them, and not so in a good manner. And like I said, she was very religious. So every day she would take out time to read them Bible, and mostly she would read about death, immorality, immortality, and things like that. Also, there were several other things that she taught to her sons, like how all the women on this planet, except her obviously, were prostitutes, were promiscuous, and they were instruments of devil, and they should be just stayed away from. She was also talking about carnal love and immorality and things like that. She would also teach them to stay away from drinking and infideling and everything like that, like sinful activities according to her. Now, like I said, she restricted them to have any social interaction, and that's why a lot of teachers and students in Ed school would describe him as a very shy, not so social boy. In fact, the teachers, they even said that he had weird mannerisms. Now, I don't know what weird mannerisms could be, but according to them, he would just laugh out of nowhere, and he had some inside jokes that he was laughing at. Now, but again, I won't blame him. Come on, his mother wasn't allowing him to interact with anyone. As soon as the boys got back home, they were supposed to do house chores and things like that. And that carried on for a long period of time. Now, in 1940, the father, George, died because of a heart attack, which was probably due to alcohol. So now it was only the boys and the mother, Augusta. Henry was not very much like Ed. He started going out with this divorced woman and single mother of 2. He was actually planning on settling with her, living in with her. But he was really worried about his younger brother Ed. Like, he was really attached to his mother in all kind of ways you can imagine. So Henry decided to actually talk about his mother's wrongdoings to Ed. He would talk about how his mother were toxic and how she was not letting them have a normal social life. So initially Ed was like very shocked, and he was hurt that his brother was talking about these things against his mother. And then something happened on May 16 of 1944 when Ed was 38 years old. So both the brothers, they were burning off these marsh vegetation on their land. They were farmers, and all of a sudden the fire, it just got out of control. So what happened was Ed went out to get the fire department, and when he came back, the fire department dealt with the fire. They dozed it off, and then Ed realized that his brother was missing. So he goes and he calls the police. There's a manhunt going on, and it was Ed who took the police officers to the place where Henry was lying face down on marsh, and he was dead. So later on, it is found out that he died because of asphyxiation, and he was dead probably even before the fire had started. Now, there are some rumors, and there was a book written on Ed Gein which says that Henry had bruises on his head. Now, it is strange that why the police officers did not investigate of homicide. Like, they could have investigated for murder, but they just felt like the family has already gone through a lot, and that wasn't just it. Anyways, now Ed was really happy. He had his mother all to himself, and there was no brother who was going to pull him away from his mother. So everything was going well. Both the mother and the son, they were having good time. But the mother, Augusta, she gets a stroke and she gets partially paralyzed and she gets stick to her bed. Now, during this entire time until she died, Ed would take care of her, like he was acting as her nurse. But even all of this attention wasn't satisfying for Augusta. She would verbally abuse him, she would call him a failure, a weakling, and abuse him in all sort of manner. And then she would scream at him and say that if she dies, he wouldn't survive in this world. And what happened was that Ed would keep on praying to God. He would beg for her to not die because he knew that if his mother died, he would not be able to survive on this planet. Well, on 29th of December 1945, Augusta dies because of another stroke, and this leaves Ed in complete disoriented manner. Now, a lot of people visited Augusta's funeral and they described Ed in a state like he was a schoolboy who lost his mother, like he was weeping in that way. But then I wouldn't comment on somebody's grieving away or someone who was mourning. I mean, everyone has their own stage, and I feel like it's wrong to comment on that. So for a very long period of time, Ed Gein goes unnoticed by people. He would go at times to the town to babysit and to do, errands or odd jobs that were given by people. He was very much described as a handy man, and no, he was not a village idiot. He was just an odd man, but he was pretty safe. Like, you are literally leaving your kid to him, so you obviously believe that he's a safe person, right? So that goes until November 16th of 1957. So he would often, go to Warden's hardware store, which was like one of the stores in the entire community. And on November 16th, Bernice Warden's son, who was also a deputy sheriff, he goes inside the store, and as soon as he walks inside, he knows something is wrong. He just gets it. So he goes immediately to the counter, and there he sees that a lot of shelves have been out, the drawers, it looks very shabby, and there on the floor was a pool of blood. So he's looking for his mother. He couldn't find Bernice Warden. He goes immediately to the police and they start investigating. Now, the last receipt they could find on the counter was of an antifreeze, and then he remembers that last evening he had actually overheard a conversation between Ed Gein and his mother where he was asking about antifreeze's price, and he said that the next day he would come in to get them. So what happens is the investigators, they rush off to Gein's property. Now, over there, initially when they were going to Gein's house, what they had in mind was that they are going to ask him some couple of questions since he was the last person in the store, but they were not really expecting that it was going to be him who was the perpetrator. So when they reach the property, they see that the house is locked, but then they go to the woodshed. Now, it is completely dark and there are only like few police officers. So when they go inside, one of the police officer, he feels something brushing on his shoulder. So he turns to his left and he sees something that nobody would have been expecting. Now, in the town, deer hunting was very common, and that was a period when men were going out and doing deer hunting. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because they saw Bernice Warden's body upside down, pulled in by an overhead pulley, and she was literally spread out like a deer that has been recently hunted. First of all, she was headless, and there was this huge cut from her pivot to the chest, and it was literally open. Like, you might have seen those deer skins in the movies, right? They're like spread out on wall or on like a carpet. Similarly, she was spread out that way. So what happens is they immediately look for Ed Gein, they catch him and they arrest him, and they take him to the police station and they lock him up. Now, a lot of other police officers and investigators are sent out to his house, which in future would be known as Ed Gein's House of Horror. So when they go inside the house, it's all messed up. Like, you couldn't even walk properly over there. There were tons and tons of boxes, clothes and packages just spread out. It was complete shackled, and there they found a lot of things. Now, remember in the beginning I gave out a disclaimer disclaimer that there are going to be a lot of triggering content and stuffs like that. That's what I'm talking about here. They found things that if somebody would have come to me and given me the list of these things, I would have said, no, you are just bluffing with me. You might have read a book, a fictional book, and that's what you're reading out, but no. So one of the things that were in the list was a belt. It was a normal belt. It had a buckle and everything, but that belt was literally made out of nipples, female nipples. There are pictures out there. I'm not going to put it in my video. I don't want it to be triggering to any one of you, also because of the community guidelines. If you want, you can Google them. Feel free to do it. So yes, the belt, the entire belt was made of female nipples. Not only that, there was also a curtain drawstring that was made of lips. Female lips. Again, all the body parts over here are of females. And then they found this waste basket which was made of human skin. There were a lot of furnitures in the house that was upholstered by human skin. There were faces of women which were stuffed with papers, and it was literally put up as some sort of memento or something like that on walls as a decorative product. Then there were skulls on his bedpost. There were these organs in the refrigerator. There was a heart on the stove. There was also these boxes underneath his bed. One of the boxes had like noses, like more than 20 noses of females. There were fingernails, and then there were these boxes with genitalias, like dried female genitalias. The question over here comes is, why was he doing so? So during the investigation, when they were asking him that why were you doing this, he agreed. So first of all, he actually asked for a piece of apple pie with some cheese on it, and then he started answering all the questions. Now, after his mother's death, he got into a lot of death cult magazines and Nazi cannibalism adventure stories. Also, he actually planned on making a women's suit made out of real human skin. There were a lot of other things found in his house as well. So like a leggings made of human skin. There was also a mammary vest. So the mammary vest was actually made of mammary glands of females, and it literally had like bells and everything. There were masks made of real human faces. There were also lampshades which had faces on them, and it get like weird lightings and stuff like that. So he actually planned on making a women's suit so that he could, literally crawl inside that skin suit and wear it and pretend to be his mom. Like, it was his way of getting his mother back. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. And he's been doing that for a very long time. So there are some rumors that there was this friend of his who was helping him, go to graveyards and dig up these graves, but we don't have like real physical evidence on it. But anyways, according to him, he was in a daze kind of a state every time he went to graveyard. Like, there were 3 local graveyards, and he would go there and exhume bodies from the graveyards. A lot of times he would take the bodies home and decapitate it, and that's why you could find like a lot of bones, fragments and holes. Also, there were like these utensils made out of skull, and the other times he would just take out the organ or body part he really wanted to use in his DIY, and he would just leave it right there. So when the investigators tried to find out if he was actually a murderer or just a body snatcher, they went into the graveyards, they took out some graves, and they found that yes, there were graves which did not have body parts. Also, there were graves which were completely empty. Like, there was this one grave which had like only a crowbar in it. So anyways, he's put into trial and he's being prosecuted for Bernice Warden's murder. Though they found Mary Hogan, who was a missing person in the city. She was a tavern owner and she was missing since 1954. So basically they found her face, like her skin face. It was in a brown bag beside his bed. So he confessed that yes, it was him who had actually abducted and murdered her. But that's all. They couldn't prosecute for Mary Hogan's murder because of some financial issues. I don't really get that part, but anyways, he's put into trial, and after a lot of examination, it comes forward that he is not capable, like he is not mentally fit to stand for a trial. So he's sent off to a mental hospital for criminally insane, and there he is kept under tight security. So after some time, the doctors and caretakers, they come into conclusion that he is indeed fit, like mentally fit to stand for a trial. And when he's put into a trial, he gets convicted for Bernice Warden's murder. but then again he's declared mentally insane and he's put into a mental institution. Now in 1984, Ed Gein dies at the age of 77 in Mendota Mental Health Institution. Another thing that I want to mention about Ed Gein is that during the trial, his house, Ed Gein's house of error, it was supposed to be auctioned because there were a lot of like tourist attraction, people were coming from a lot of places, they were peeping inside and things like that. But supposedly, somebody lit the entire house on fire. Like, it is said that it could be accidental, but it could be also an arson. So we don't know exactly, but when he was told about this, he gave a very nonchalant reply. He was like, whatever, it was supposed to happen and things like that. And yes, this was Ed Gein, Edward Theodore Gein, who inspired characters like Norman Bates, Buffalo Bill, Leatherface, like people and characters we've been watching our entire childhood and more. And yes, these events did happen. Like, I know, right? This entire thing, the nipples belt and that drawstring made out of lips, the lampshade of face, it feels all very fictional, and you cannot imagine that any human can actually do so. But then this is a very unfortunate fact that there are people out there. There might be other Ed Geins out there. We don't know about it. I hope that there are not. So yes, this is the case of Ed Gein. You can call him the man who made furniture out of human skin, or the person who used to eat food from a bowl made out of skull and things like that, butcher of Plainfield. A lot of titles he has earned over this period of time. Anyways, that's all for today's video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it informative. Take care, you guys. Also, if you have any suggestions, you could directly message me on my Instagram, or you could just drop it in the comment section. Take care. Bye-bye.